Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Jared. Excited to be here.
Excited. Let's dive right in. We tend to keep these short and sweet. So first things first, let's assume there's people listening. They're just hearing from you for the first time, potentially. Tell them a little bit about yourself and then lead that into what is Eleos Health.
For sure. So great to be here. My name is Alon Joffe. I'm one of the three co-founders and CEO here at Eleos Health. And our mission is really straightforward, which is to empower behavioral health clinicians to focus 100% of their time on care and 0% of their time on admin. And as you know, Jared, we are in a crisis right now in behavioral health, mental health. The demand is through the roof, skyrocketing, supply is actually shrinking, and we have a gap. And flash news, we cannot hire ourselves out of this situation. The supply of clinicians we have is what we have. And so we believe at Eleos that we have to use technology to bend kind of the supply curve and empower clinicians to focus more of the time on care, because today 50% of their time goes to administrative work and not seeing patients, and we want to change that.
And what was kind of obviously there was, I can take away several moments within there that made you want to start this in the first place. But what I found is with most of the founders that I talk with, there's always something, the final straw that made them, okay, go from this was an idea, this was something I was interested in, to I'm going to go register and start building this today. What was that final straw for you and your team?
So we're not clinicians, right? We're not coming from a clinical background, but we have seen with our loved ones, friends, family members, that if they had great access to a great clinician, their life took the right turn in a way. And if they didn't, their life looks completely different. And so we believe that behavioral health needs and deserve a change. And the best tool clinicians have today is a notebook. And what was, I guess, like the final decisive moment is when we interviewed 400 clinicians and we just asked them about their day, asked them about their problem, the same problem repeated in 400 interviews. And when you have this level of certainty, then we felt like, okay, we're onto something. There is a big problem here. All clinicians are talking about this. It's worth spending time and energy in solving this problem.
I love it. Yeah, it's more important now than ever. The importance has just grown on having better access here. Now, obviously, investors felt the same way. You recently closed. It was Series C, right? It was 60 million Series C.
Correct. Yeah.
And you've raised over 100 million to date. What factors do you think made Eleos an attractive investment, especially given this round?
Yeah, great question. I think multiple factors. We started Eleos back in March 2020, just as the pandemic hit. And this was, just a reminder for everyone, pre-ChatGPT moment, right? Pre-LLMs. But our background is kind of deep AI, deep natural language processing. So in a way, we know where this train is headed. And we've built, and we're in kind of the foundational model play from day one. So we believe that what a better application for a large language model than behavioral health, which is all about language. You literally treat people by talking to them. It's the perfect application for LLMs. And also happens to be that we have built the largest database in the world of behavioral health conversations. So we had the technology play, the data play, and we also had amazing market and amazing customers. And I think we've really hit and found our kind of ideal customer profile, where a lot of innovation today goes into the hospitals and the health systems. Rightfully so. There's a lot of need there. But there's tremendous amount of need outside of the hospital. in behavioral health, in the community, in substance use, in autism, in a lot of these areas where, Jared, I don't know about you, but most of the people I know, their families, their parents, they spend their time there. They're not really hospitalized 24/7, right? They need to take care of their older parents. They have a family member dealing with something, and innovation didn't trickle down into these areas. And I think the combination of the technology, the data, the product, and just amazing customer testimonials and amazing usage, I think was kind of the perfect storm from the investor perspective.
Let's continue on the AI ML side of things. So when you when you when Eleos is described, um, it's often described as the most widely deployed AI platform in behavioral health. How would you say your AI differs from, obviously you were ahead of the curve, but from some of these other health tech solutions, I guess in terms of impact and functionality? I know you gave us a little bit there, but would love to hear your AI impact.
Of course, and I know this is kind of a hot topic right now because there's a lot of buzz and a lot of activities right around AI in healthcare. Um, when you're dealing with a very specific use case and not with sales calls or kind of general purpose conversations, because remember, it's called GPT for a reason. It's general purpose, right? Healthcare is not general purpose. It's very specific purpose. And to be able to, for the models not to hallucinate, if you want to, clinicians to actually adopt and reduce their time spent on documentation by like 80%, you need to fine tune the models. You need to be able to have data to do that fine tuning. You really need to hit the nail on the head in terms of the tech and the products and how you do that. When you couple that, by the way, with just the innovation around the cost structure, think about this, Jared. We are analyzing the lengthiest conversation in healthcare. Primary care, 6 minutes conversation, right? Behavioral health, 60 minutes. How do you do that also with cost structure that allows you to provide the product to community health centers, to nursing facilities, to substance use facilities? These are not your Mayo clinics and Cedar-Sinai of the world, right? So that's, I think, another play. And we are today probably the only company that is using multimodal LLM in full scale and full production. We're not transcribing anything. It's audio to audio, kind of creating the audio and producing audio back, which I think is very, very unique. And today, Eleos is beyond documentation, right? It's a full automation kind of operating system, AI-based operating system for behavioral health and adjacent markets. And it's all coming down to the workflow. Think about this community. Think about what they do. Like they go in a car, they drive someone without a home to a pharmacy or to a grocery store to buy food. They're not sitting in a clinic. This is not your sterile environment. We're talking about substance use, group sessions. Some of them are on Zoom, some of them are in person. The workflow here matters. And if you being able to tie the right technology to the right product to the workflow, then you win. And people sometimes talk about only the LLMs and the core AI. A lot of the value accumulates in the product, in the workflow, which I think in behavioral health is completely different than what you see in a hospital setting. Does that make sense, Jared?
Makes sense. And along the way, like, how do you decide from a product perspective what gets added? Obviously, you're still that startup. You are a much more
Yeah.
seasoned startup at this point, though, right? And kudos to how you and your team operate. But along the way, I'm sure you've received a lot of feedback on what should be added, or through the people that are using the product. How do you decide what gets added to roadmap, and what can you share with us in terms of what's next with the product?
Yeah. I think it's one of the most difficult questions that we face every day. So it's definitely a great point. All of the features and the products we've built to date have been mainly bottom up from our customers and from the community we serve. Today, we serve close to 200 organization and tens of thousands of clinicians, and they really care about kind of the products that they're using. Um, so, for example, we have just launched a compliance product, right? So it's great that we help you document, but then you need to take all these notes and review them and quality improvement before you submit them for billing. You don't have the workforce to actually review every note. So we've built a compliance product that scans everything and tells you what's green and what's red, right? That was bottom up from our customers. I'll give you an example. Just in, I think, 2 weeks from now, I'm meeting some of our leading customers. It's what we call a reverse pitch. They are coming to us and pitching us what they want us to solve for them, right? Once we hear enough times that something is really painful, once we understand the value and how does that impact their business, it's being added to the roadmap. And of course, there are smaller features. For example, we just added like support of psychiatry and coding around psychiatry, which was a very high on the list for a long time. But it's mainly bottom up.
And you raised the Series C. What areas now with that funding are you planning to invest in? Or will it be more hiring? If so, what areas of hiring? What areas of product? Would love to hear more.
Yeah, basically all of the above. So what I mean by that is, yes, we're expanding the team. We have very ambitious goals, and we're expanding the team across the board, both go-to-market, sales, marketing, customer success, but also engineering, product. Um, we are really building the first AI native operating system for the what I call the compassionate care industries: behavioral health, substance use, intellectual development disabilities, long-term care. And we're taking that with a kind of a waterfall approach. So from the first intake to clinical insights to documentation to compliance to revenue cycle management, right, across kind of downstream effect. And we're applying all this tech stack and kind of this agentic workflow to all these different markets. That's why that's what the funding is going to kind of serve. And at the end of the day, I think it will help us impact more lives and more and open up access to more patients who need great care. And I think that's what kind of we're all about.
One of the things when people research the behavioral health space is really the regulatory landscape. AI specifically is a hot topic in healthcare when it comes to really anything, but especially for healthcare. What regulatory considerations do you anticipate as AI adoption continues to grow in this behavioral health space?
Yeah, very timely question because I think there are obviously changes now with the new administration, and we'll see how regulation will change and adopt. A lot of where we thought regulation is going to might have been reversed or changed or adapted. So we'll see. Um, I hope that the regulation will follow the value to the patient and the value to the clinician. And as long as the regulations serve that impact and that goal, then it makes sense, right? If regulation will become a blocker for innovation, a blocker for better access and better care, then I don't think it serves its purpose. Needless to say that we need to protect personal health information. We need to protect privacy. We need to be able to explain how the AI work. We need to be able to explain what do we do with the data and do we have a diverse data set for a diverse population. For example, we've gone through a what is called a trust certification to actually show that our data sets come from diverse population and is applicable to everyone. I hope that legislators have that in mind when they're thinking about regulation in this space.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll just continue to talk about it for a while until any
Probably.
sort of action is made. I mean, it doesn't. All you have to do is watch whenever they bring a tech founder in front of Congress to the funniest if I remember back in the early like Facebook days where they bring Zuckerberg in and the, the people on these panels sometimes they need to fully understand the technology before they bring in the person that is one of the smartest people in the world, right? In
Yeah,
question.
yeah, definitely. And also it's a very fast moving target. Like we need to understand the pace of innovation here is crazy. And if you don't fully understand and if you're not on the cutting edge, it's very easy to fall into cliches and like, you think you understand, but you don't fully understand how it works. I have to say that I think something that will move faster than regulation is the buyer sophistication in a way. Um, Buyers are getting incredibly smart about how to evaluate these different solutions, how to benchmark them, how to look at KPIs for value. I think that will actually what's going to drive the conversation first. And as you said, it will take time for regulation to follow.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Um, as we wrap up here, what's next for Eleos, and what do you see? How do you see the next 5 years planning out? If you can kind of put that forward-thinking outlook on.
Of course. Um, Forward-looking perspective, Elias is going to be the kind of AI application layer to drive this um, agentic automation across the board for the compassionate care market, right? And if you think about it, for behavioral health and all these industries are really around kind of conversation, it makes so much sense because what is the X-ray for behavioral health? What is the blood test for behavioral health? Where the treatment is the conversation. There needs to be a data layer. There needs to be an application layer that doesn't replace clinicians, but augment them and guide them to have better clinical care to our loved ones, right? And if we can remove the burden by doing so, amazing. I think the industry is going towards that place. I think the industry is going towards measuring quality and like quantifying quality in behavioral health. I think that's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. And I think Elias has a big part to play in that story.
I love it. Well, I look forward to staying in touch and continuing to follow along with Elios's progress. But thank you so much for joining me here today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Jared.